I'm Lynne Edwards, and this is the latest book that I've done, which is the Essential Sampler Quilt book. Now, no sampler quilt is complete without a traditional Drunkard's Path block. There's one actually shown you on the back there in the corner. It's a lovely block, very traditional, beautiful curve. Here's a little detail there. That's one square. There's the curve, and there's the rest of the block. Behind me you can see a whole quilt of Drunkard's Path blocks. And what we're going to do is show you how to use a new ruler from Creative Grids to mean the cutting of these blocks will be so much quicker and so much easier to do. And this is the ruler, and we'll look at it more closely. Here's the Drunkard's Path ruler. Along the top edge we have the smaller quarter circle shape, 3 of them. Now those are all cut from 2.5 inch wide strips. The larger shape is cut from a 3.5 inch wide strip. I have one there, a gap and a second one, and a third one will be cut by turning this piece round and cutting it afterwards. You could have several layers of fabric as well to make it even quicker. Along the bottom you have a regular ruler, and up the side, all with the non-slip on it. Having done that, the middle here has got just the 2 lines you need. 3.5 is here, along here. 3.5 inches from there to there, and there it is marked. The only other line you need is 2.5 inches, and there it is, along there. And there is its label. So we don't need any other markings in the centre, so they're all cleared out. And all we've got now is a label telling you that it's a 3-inch Drunkard's Path block, which means that these are all 12-inch designs. And there's 6 examples of them, of the many that you could do with Drunkard's Path to make a 12-inch block. The holes in here are going to be useful because as you cut along the strip, along the curve and down through there, you go off the edge of the strip and into the hole. Now we're going to make a Drunkard's Path unit. To make the larger piece, we'll need a strip of that yellow fabric that's 3.5 inches wide. So, taking the ruler, if you notice I'm not going to use the board at all, I'm only using the ruler, and I'm going to move it over the fabric, which has now, I've trimmed the edge already, until the edge of the fabric is right on the edge on that 3.5 inch line on the ruler, which means everything underneath the ruler, trapped under it, is 3.5 inches wide, and I'm going to cut it. And that's a 3.5 inch wide strip, which is what I want out of the yellow fabric. Now out of the green fabric, here, I want a narrower strip. I want 2.5 inches. Same thing, over the ruler goes until the 2.5 inch line, which is marked quite clearly here, is on the edge of the fabric, so I know the piece of fabric I'm cutting is exactly 2.5 inches wide, and I'm going to cut it. And there we are. So now I have the 2 strips that I need to start cutting my curved shapes. I'm going to start with the 2.5 inch wide strip because that is the smaller shape and I think it's easier to cut with the rotary cutter. So that's the section of the ruler that I put on the strip. It's very clearly marked for me. It says 2.5 inch strip on it. I've got it in place. The line is on the edge of the fabric there, and the top of the ruler hits the other edge of the fabric there. So we're in business. So to start with, I'm going to cut up here, so I'll begin in the hole, keeping my hands well away from them, up the side of the ruler and off the edge, take away the excess. Now I moved it round. The reason I've put the strip on at an angle like that is so that this curve is going to be in a very nice position for me to cut. If I had the strip straight, it would be far more difficult to get at. So now I can move round like this. Now when you're cutting these curves, turn the blade gently round like that and into the hole. No hands near, notice. Small rotary cutter. Cannot use a big one for this, I'm afraid. It needs the small one. Straight up here, off the end. This piece will be scrap. Here is my piece cut, and you would continue down the strip, cutting those 2.5 inch strip shapes as many as you need for your design out of that fabric. Having done that one, we will put that aside. So here's the 3.5 inch strip ready to be cut. I'm putting the ruler onto it and I'm looking at the larger piece here. I've lined up the line on the ruler with the bottom of the fabric and the top of the ruler with the top edge of the fabric. Keep my hands well away from the holes, nice and firm. First of all, I'm going to cut up the side to get rid of the excess. Now here's the curve I'm going to do now, and that is more difficult because it's inside like that. So take it gently, and as you cut, you've got to turn the cutter. Move your wrist round like that. When you get to the end, go a little bit further than you need, but no further than 1/4 inch. Lift the cutter back against the ruler and straight into the turning hole there. Just make sure I've cut that. Yes, I have. So this one, straight up, starting the hole, off to the end of the strip. And what we have here is an extra piece. This is cut. You'll cut as many more as you wish, but let me show you the next bit. To move that out of the way and deal with this piece. Here's my leftover piece, and I'm going to rotate it round like that. So that corner is at the bottom because it's going to be much easier to cut. And look at this for saving fabric. Line it up, that's cut, that's cut. All we have to do now is get into that curve, take it gently again, round we go, off the end, you can go right off the end now, straight down into the hole. That's all the wastage, and there you have another piece. How about that? So here are my 2 pieces that I need to join together for my Drunkard's Path block. At this stage, don't panic. It doesn't seem at all possible that one would fit that one, because the seam allowance for this is in here, the seam allowance for that one is out there, so they will meet together, so please don't panic about it. But this larger shape here, this curve, concave curve, is very tight, and this is an occasion where we have to actually clip it. There. I've clipped that about every 1/4 inch, and it's a good 1/8 inch deep, but no more. That's just going to make it easier to ease like that. So here's my big piece. Here's my smaller piece, and I've got to make them match. First thing I'm going to do is find the middle. Fold it like that. Got a little crease. This one is going to go on the top. I fold that one in half, and the little creases will match beautifully. I'll make sure it's nice and square, but I'm actually not going to pin it on this side because I needed to position it first, but I need to actually pin it on this side because as with the corner to corner curve, it's the larger piece, that curve on the top. Notice the pin is at right angles. I've done the middle. Now this edge, how can this fit this? Look, it's got to come right round like that. And that edge has got to line up for both fabrics. And I'm going to pin it again at right angles to the curve. Swing right round to this side. It really doesn't want to go. Look at this. Pull it right round. Match those 2 long edges there. They'll fight. Beat them. Put the pin in. Now, just look at that. You see, if you keep this piece on the top, see how the top one is absolutely spreading like that so you can see it beautifully. And the edges, providing those edges match, it's going to be a perfect curve. More pins are needed all the way round. As many as you feel you need. The machinist, keep that yellow piece, the larger piece, on the top. See how you can machine round that. Very nice. If you're a hand worker, pick it up, roll it over your hand and ease that curve in as you sew. If, like me, you need a guideline for that hand stitching, then you take your yellow piece and before you start to curve it round, you mark every single one where you go. Can you see the dots there? They're a 1/4 inch away from the edge. I've just done it with a pencil, which I talked about in the corner to corner curve demonstration. And that way you can, when you sew, you can just sew from dot to dot and you've got the perfect 1/4 inch seam stitched by hand. The machine, of course, will do that for you. It's your choice, whichever way you want to sew. When you've completed it, you'll have your lovely Drunkard's Path block. There it is, one of those. And then you can go on looking at the designs on the ruler or looking at designs in book to make as many as you need to make a design, a pattern, a quilt even. And I hope you enjoy doing it.